Now, getting into topic one, the position preview. So, this segment, I'm going to be looking at the defensive back position, which last year I would say pretty much everyone would agree with me was the best position group at UW. You had Elijah Molden leading the way, who was really a shutdown nickel corner. I mean, Molden is a great corner. He has great eyes, great hands. He's got great technique. He's able to play the zone defense as well as man-to-man defense. And he was also arguably the best run defending corner in college football, coming up at the attack of the point of the running back when he reads run. Now, one downside of Molden was that he wasn't always he's not the biggest guy by far, and he's also not the most athletic. So he could sometimes get beat on deep routes, but usually his technique was able to help him overcome these shortcomings. Now, he was a senior, so he won't be here next year. So that's going to be a big loss for this defensive backs group. And another corner who won't be here next year is Keith Taylor, who's also moving on to the NFL. Now, Taylor is an interesting case, as I never really feel like he reached his full potential here at UW. Now, don't get me wrong, I think he's a great corner, a good corner. He clearly has the measurables. He's 6'3" tall, so kind of the Kevin King body type. But really, he needed to improve his technique and work on his ball production. As although he had 10 pass deflections in his career at UW, he had 0 interceptions. So he was able to get to the point of the ball at the same time as the receiver often and knock it away, but he wasn't usually or ever really able to come away with it for himself. So those are really the only 2 losses this position group has faced from this offseason. And even with how big those losses are and how key those players were, I still think that this defensive backs group is going to be a good group going into next year. I mean, UW has a great history with a number of defensive backs coming out of here. You got Byron Murphy, Kevin King, Sidney Jones. I'm sure I'm forgetting someone. But I think that with the young guys they have coming in who developed last year, and really first off, just a guy to talk about for next year is Trent McDuffie, Trent McDuffie, as a freshman in 2019, was named second team All-Freshman All-American by Pro Football Focus and was honorable mention for freshman Pac-12 Player of the Year. And now in 2020, in the shortened 4-game season, he did not disappoint either. He was named All Pac-12 second team, and his highlight from 2020 was the game-sealing interception against Utah. Overall, he didn't have many stats, as quite frankly, teams avoided him. He wasn't thrown at that much as teams respected his game. Now, for the replacement for the other 2 starting jobs that were left in Taylor and Molden, one of the guys who will likely be plugged into one of those spots is Kyler Gordon. Last year, Gordon started one of the 4 games. He played in all 4. He was also a key guy on special teams last year as well as the year before. And Gordon is really just a guy that can play anywhere on the field. He can line up at safety, he can play at corner, he can play in the nickel, he can play all over on the defensive back. So really depending on what other guy shines in practice or training camp, Gordon will likely just be slotted in at that other spot, whether it's the outside corner opposite of Trent McDuffie, or if it's the nickel corner taking Elijah Molden's role. As the 2 safety spots are pretty much already filled up with the pairing of Asa Turner and Alex Cook returning. And then you've also got Julius Irving likely getting some reps throughout the season. So really that leaves one depth chart or one open depth chart spot that needs to be filled out. And I look at it, it could be a number of different guys. It really all just depends on how they perform in practice leading up to the season and who the coaches like the most and who they think will be the most productive. Looking at the class of 2021 cornerbacks who came in, You've got Dyson McCutcheon and Zachary Spears. Neither one of those guys, I think, will really make an instant impact on this team, as both of them are 3 stars coming in. So they'll likely both redshirt this first year. Two names that I would look at as maybe getting that last starting job that I'm giving out would be junior Dominic Hampton, as well as sophomore Cameron Fabi, as those were the two guys that were behind Keith Taylor and Elijah Molden on the 2-man depth chart for the final game of the year against Stanford. So they clearly did stuff in practice that got the coaches to notice them. Now, another name to kind of keep an eye out for that would be Covington redshirted last year as a 4-star at high school, which Sagara High School is also the same high school that former Husky star cornerback and current NFL cornerback Byron Murphy went to, with Murphy also being a 4-star prospect out of there. So maybe Covington be the next Byron Murphy for you. Covington clearly has a nice size for a cornerback, 6'2", which is kind of that ideal, good size, but not too tall size. So overall, really, this position group, the defensive backs, they're not a position group that I'd be too concerned about with their performance for next year. They seem to always be the strong point for this team, and really, I expect more of that in the 2021 season. So now, getting into my second topic.